Against Group C, for Group A, PE Sports, Buriram United Esports, AG Global, Indostars, Attack All Around, and Vamos.
And for Group C, we have EVOS, Onyx, WAG, Twisted Minds, Heavy, and as well as BTR Delta. Now, again, traditionally we've seen Group B kind of, as Group A and as well as Group B sometimes don't exactly get along too well, even B and C, but I have to admit, when we are looking at these teams, and especially between A and C, I think it's going to be a much slower day. I mean, I don't get to see a lot of Group B considering my casting timetable, but when I'm looking at BRU who ended last week pretty hot off their backs, I think everybody is really looking out to bolster themselves with some points.
If you're a BRU player, you know for a fact that first place is definitely a possibility by the end of the day, right? They are 2 points away from 400 on the leaderboard, but like you said, facing off against the teams from Group C, projected to be a slower day, but I'm looking at Bigatron Delta, the dark horses so far from Indonesia, aside from RQ Kazu, currently in 9th place, but they have demonstrated crazy firepower, 176 Elim points, but they got to work on that placement points a little bit with only 92, just half of what they have for eliminations, and I think if they can polish up on that, BTR can position themselves as a very strong contender.
Or never fall into a situation where you have to go into a tiebreaker. One or the other. One or the other. But as we go into these potential maps here, I'm waiting to see whether BRU is going to have another hot day, right? I'm wondering whether this is the time where it's not about like playing passive anymore. It's about really making sure that they set themselves apart and then afterwards go back to being passive. I'm hoping that this is still one of their hot phases.
I mean, they are top in Ilims, top in assists as well, and second, I believe, in knockdowns. So overall, BRU, the most solid team we have all time. I think at this point, even newcomers to the scene would have to admit that, right? And then you have Wasana, one of the best, youngest rushers we have. Second in terms of average Elims, 8th in terms of total damage, and 6th in terms of headshot. But the fact that he has such a high average Elim counts basically, already proves that he is very reliable in these CQCs.
Even when BRU isn't doing well, right? Usually that's what really tanks KDAs, is if you just have like a singular bad map. Now BRU, they so far have just been consistent all around, right? Even in the worst of situations, and even when you expect him to go down fast, he brings 2 along with him, at least.
Every single time that BRU finds himself at a man disadvantage, you always feel like it's not over yet. And I remember one of the comments online that I saw, someone said that BRU is an army on its own, right? Every single player is an armada. Like Moshi can 1v4, Wasana can 1v4. You have to take the whole team out to ensure that there's no lingering chances. And that's what they've proven over time. You just cannot count them out. That's how they won 2 world championships across the past few years.
I mean, let's look at the game schedule today, right? Bermuda, our very first map. Purgatory, if you guys have been watching, you know the rest. Alpine, Kalahari, Nextera. Then finally, our random map of the day. And now, I feel like the random map, honestly, I'm into it. I like the idea, but I haven't seen teams really get a significant advantage off of it. That's what I was really worried about, right? Teams who are really good at playing Alpine, teams who are known to be dominating when they play Kalahari, or even Purgatory, right? Haven't really been taking advantage of when the random maps do end up rolling out. It feels like a lot of these teams have adjusted to each other's playstyle. There is starting to develop a tournament meta here at FFWS, and we haven't even gotten to Point Rush yet.
I think the craziest thing is that throughout the history of competitive Free Fire, if my memory serves me correctly, historically it has only happened once where the random map decided the world champion, and that was last year, FFWS Thailand, where Fluxo got a back-to-back Nextera map with the same exact drop zone and high tier loot zone, which still exists in last year's meta, and that's how they won the whole thing. And it was also at a time where people completely ignored Skylar. Like Thai teams, they just want to play Tatsuya right in your face with the Portal Go, and then the Brazilians brought in Skylar, and that was what got Fluxo the trophy, which in of itself is a very crazy story if you were not there to see it firsthand. But at least for Bermuda, we know that the top performing team, RQ Kazu, isn't here, but we have the second in line, which is WAG, who are also not too far behind.
You know, speaking of that win, I mean, they are meta shifters, right? Every single time we have a new champion, they bring something new to the table, and that's what we are seeing, the echoes, you know, that are rippling through time and space. That's why we know a lot of teams nowadays are actually looking to play for information. They're looking for those thirds. It's not as run into your face as possible, and the teams that usually do that are getting punished significantly for it too.
Yeah, And the recent patches have definitely shifted it a little bit, right? Portal Go's having the buffer, they're more expensive. Stars to watch though for today: Moshi, Alan, and Ray. Of course, Moshi, even when you look at the weekly highlights, right, majority of the star featured players are snipers from their respective team, with Moshi being in first place as always. So you cannot count him out. I'm very glad that the sniper meta is back. I'm very glad that they are getting a lot more respect than they usually do. Also, in part, that Skylar is a part of the meta right now, as we're gonna hop into Bermuda in just a little bit.
Yep, I'm excited for this. I want to see the fresh new take on Bermuda, this time between A and C. So far, never get to see Group B in their usual bloody ways, but now, between A and C, I'm comfortable with the way that they like to drop, especially on a default map. Especially the very first time you touch the game, this is the soil that you're going to be walking on. Get ready, everybody, as we head on into the plane for our very first map of the day here at the Free Fire World Series. Give it up for Bermuda.
And also, this is the halfway point of the group stage. By the end of this weekend, we would have elapsed the first half of the knockout stage, which in of itself is a pretty crazy milestone to reach, especially for the teams who are trying to catch up into that top 12. Again, I'm looking at Bigotron Delta, see if they can make a splash today. There was a meme posted on Instagram for the Free Fire Malaysia official page saying that BTR is one of the King Slayers, you know, the killer of the Thai teams. We'll see if they can prove it.
I mean, the last time I saw that meme was strapped against the wall, a Galaxy S24 Ultra, and I was just like, no way, why would somebody leave this out in the open? But it's so clear that it stands out in a blank, empty room. But let's jump right into it here. As we see the flight path, very default, very normal, goes straight right across, giving a good spread for all of these teams. But we're looking for early engagements, which I don't see too many of, other than maybe Twisted Minds and EVOS.
There's a chance for Indostars and Onyx Olympus to kick it off as well on that eastern side of the map. Two teams that have been struggling ever since EWC, which was a big shocker, right? Because they both went into that East